On this new release, which is King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard's 4th release for 2017, oh my gosh, the lights are bright! So annoying. On this new release, King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard's 4th release for 2017, the band stay true to their progressive influence and psychedelic influences, but for the most part in a very low-key and steady kind of way. It's not as unkempt and as insane as Murder of the Universe. It's staying at a rather steady pace, which might surprise you after the first track, Crumbling, which certainly is the freakiest cut here, and even then it's still pretty restrained. Not that it's a bad thing, I still think it's a great track. I love the hook. I think there's like a quality to the song and the melody itself that sounds very fantastical, like the song is set in a surreal fantasy land, maybe even a little bit spacey too. And even though overall I think the song drags a fair bit in the middle, the freakouts of guitar and electronics at the back end kind of make it worth the wait. After this point, the record takes a bit of a breather with a rather pleasant title track that features some calmer vocals without the sense of urgency that plagued the opener, and a very soothing acoustic guitar plucking throughout. And the woodwinds towards the end, the flutes, they're a nice touch too. The track itself does feel a little directionless though, which is kinda ironic considering the main lyric, "We're gonna get there, Polygondwanaland." I mean, sure, it's pleasant on the ears, but I seldom feel like the adventure is all that exciting on this release. I mean, it all flows really well, as King Giz albums tend to do, but despite cuts like the spoken word piece on The Castle in the Air, which makes me think that there is a running narrative to this album, I feel less invested in it. Most of the tracks on this album kind of feel like they're merely plodding along, even if Deserted Dunes' Welcome Weary Feet picks up the pace a little bit more, if ever so slightly, with a nice little bass groove. The electronics on this track are a great touch, and they make the song sound rather progressive, or as in, they make the song sound as if it's progressing towards a goal or a big point. Although come the track In a Cell, which hops in right after, the album sinks back into another low-key moment. Although I do enjoy how this track sounds vividly like you're sneaking through a dark and dusty dungeon or prison trying not to disturb any guards, like perhaps a sort of stealth mission. It does give those kinds of vibes. The ending of this song is surprisingly beautiful too, even if the lyrics about flesh rotting aren't exactly that. Yet there is a triumphant sense of escape when Stu sings "Our time has come," or maybe it's poignant, I'm not too sure. The same beauty returns for Horology, which I do enjoy once the woodwinds seep into the chorus. It is genuinely lovely, and the vocal harmonies really help that track to blossom too. I think the last track on the album is where the pace picks right back up again for a climactic finish, and that's where I was like, so yes, it did all lead somewhere in the end, it just took a very long time. There is a moment where you hear a whole load of layers of singing vocals playing over each other like conflicting voices, and then a minute or so of silence before the track blows up once again and gives us a kick-ass final minute of heavy psych insanity with screechy guitars and screaming and a sick-ass bass groove to boogie on down to, as we hear what sounds like a surreal battle death scene of sorts. It is a cool moment to close out the album with. So yes, I have made my issues very clear with Polygondwanaland, but I enjoy the overall sound. These songs do sound very good, but collectively this album kind of plods along in a way that doesn't feel as exciting as previous King Gizzard releases. It also at times feels a little run-of-the-mill for King Gizzard. Not that the sound itself is run-of-the-mill, I doubt you'll be hearing this like on Top 40 radio for example, or even on just like a rock radio sort of thing. This is a sound that is rarely kind of covered, but for King Gizzard standards, this is kind of just, you know, what you'd expect from them. Not too many surprises being pulled out here. But it's cool, you know. 6 out of 10.